In September 1998, Dr. George Wilder, professor of biology at Cleveland State University, discovered a rare plant called Dusty Goldenrod in a wet meadow on a 37-acre property owned by the Mayfield City School District. This was in fact the only known location in Ohio for this species. Later, Suniti Jog, a PhD candidate working with Dr. Wilder, selected the entire wetland complex surrounding the Dusty Goldenrod as the site for her PhD work. She published her dissertation in May of 2003. What followed was a broad-based community-wide effort to protect this plant and its wetland habitat. In 2008, a 12.5-acre portion of the wetland complex was protected with a conservation easement. In 2019, West Creek Conservancy worked with Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District to apply for a Clean Ohio Fund grant. They purchased the 37-acre property owned by Mayfield City School District. The Friends of Euclid Creek works with Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District and West Creek Conservancy to manage and protect the rare plants and high-quality wetlands on this property. Wetlands are areas saturated with water, either permanently or seasonally, such that they take on the characteristics of a distinct ecosystem. Wetlands are characterized by the range of plant material adapted to this unique, abundantly moist soil. Some common types of wetlands are marshes, swamps, bogs, fens, floodplains, seeps, and swales. Wetlands play a critical role in our environment. They help prevent and reduce flooding. They filter and purify pollution. They provide a carbon sink. Wetlands stabilize shorelines and riverbanks. And wetlands are the most biologically diverse habitat, providing shelter, nesting areas, and food for a wide variety of creatures, many of them endangered. The loss of wetlands and other types of habitats is one of the main causes of animal population reductions around the world. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Heiser. I'm the Euclid Creek Watershed Program Manager housed out of Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District. Today, I'm here in the Euclid Creek Watershed at a very special property known as the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve. Behind me, you can see both a headwater stream and a forest. We have 4 very special wetland habitats here on site, and this one is known as wet forest. So come along with me as I take you on a tour of these 4 special wetland habitats that we have on site. We're here in what's known as the wet forest portion of the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve, and you can see behind me that we have a tributary to the east branch of Euclid Creek flowing through this area of the property. And what happens when it rains is that water is going to come out of the tributary and onto the land. We're going to find mostly tree species, and we have oaks, hickory, maple, tulip, beech. You'll notice on the floor of the forest there's not much understory, so we don't have a lot of understory vegetation. This area along the edge of the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve obviously experiences more interaction with humans because we're right on the border of a neighborhood. And a lot of times we can carry things into our natural areas on our shoes, or even in the water that comes out off the banks if it was carrying things from our yards. And this area is a case where we want to watch very closely for invasives. We know we have some Phragmites and some reed canary grass on site that we want to make sure that we're taking care of. But we have some good things here as well. So you can see this is a willow tree on the bank of this tributary. Very important for early pollinators. And this is one of the species that we would like to plant with you in the fall. We're heading from the wet forest into the shrub swamp wetland habitat now. So we're going to see more shrubs, as the name indicates. We have black chokeberry, viburnum, dogwood, meadowsweet. We also have a few trees. We have willows and red maples, as well as some true forget-me-not. You're going to see more ground cover in this habitat than we did in the wet forest. We also are going to have more intermittent and intertwining streams through this area. They're often going to be inundated and filling the floodplain, moving around a little bit. And this is the transition zone between the wet forest and our wet meadow, where our dusty goldenrod plant that the preserve is named after is located. One of the many problems we have in urban watersheds like Euclid Creek Watershed is trash, unfortunately. And so one of the opportunities to get involved here at the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve and within our watershed in general is with stream cleanups. And so if you want to join Friends of Euclid Creek, their conservation committee comes out and they help not only clean up trash like this, but also help manage plants, etc. So we would come out, we'd bring a group, we'd bring our trash bags, like what I have in my backpack here, our gloves, and we'd help to haul off a lot of this trash. And some of it, unfortunately, is really big trash, and so we really do need many hands to make light work of getting this trash out of our unique wetland property. We're here at one of the unnamed tributaries that flows through the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve. And one of the problems we have in these urban streams is called erosion. And that's where we start to see loss of the sediment that's attached to the bank. And so you can see here that we've got quite a significant area where we don't have any vegetation keeping the bank in place. It's also starting to get sloped very steep, so water can't easily get out onto the floodplain anymore, which is going to just make more erosion and also more flooding downstream. What we really want to see is like on my left-hand side here, where we have a direct connection from the stream to the floodplain for water to get out, soak onto the ground, and slowly come back into the stream during a big rain event. One of the activities we would like to do here at the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve is to come out and do what we call bioengineering. So instead of coming out and slapping a wall on these eroding stream banks, we want to let nature help us out. So we want to take cuttings from species that are native to this area, like dogwoods or willows, and we want to put those in the bank and let them take root and start to grow and hold the bank in place. Now we're heading away from our shrub swamp and into the wet meadow habitat on site. And so you'll see a drastic change from our wet forest to our shrub swamp to our wet meadow. Now we're going to see a lot more forbs and grasses and less trees and shrubs. I'm here with one of our original easement boundary markers for the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve. Back in 2008, Friends of Euclid Creek, West Creek Conservancy, Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District worked together with the property owner to preserve 12.5 acres of this parcel and prevent it from being developed. The wet meadow habitat on the Dusty Goldenrod property is home to most of the rare and unique species at the site. The Dusty Goldenrod, which you'll see blooming in October. Also, we have over 20 species of moss on this site, and we have some very special rushes, which you'll see most often blooming in September. In November 2019, Friends of Euclid Creek members and Zeta Beta Tau fraternity members helped to install several deer exclosures on the property. These fenced areas are designed to keep deer out so we can see how the plant communities react without the pressure from deer constantly grazing. Are you interested in monitoring plants? Join the Friends of Euclid Creek Conservation Committee to come out and monitor these deer exclosures and see how these plants do without the pressure of deer. At the time of our tour, most plants were not in bloom, so we wanted to share these photos from Joe King of the Wet Meadow area from September 2018. We're now moving from the wet meadow into the wooded swamp habitat. The wooded swamp is wetter more often than the wet forest. So in this habitat, you're going to find oaks, cottonwoods, maples, elms, ash, hickories, trees that like it wetter longer. At one of the unnamed tributaries that flows through Dusty Goldenrod Preserve to the east branch of Euclid Creek. And behind me, you can see all this leaf debris that has been washed down the creek and out onto what we call the floodplain. And that shows you just how much water gets out of this creek during a really big rain event and where that water actually goes. And that's why on this property, all of this area is known as a wetland habitat of some sort, because it's wet either all of the year or a substantial part of the year. Thanks for joining us on our virtual tour of the Dusty Goldenrod Preserve over to my right. On my left is Highland Heights Community Park, and this is actually part of that same wetland complex that's really important in the Euclid Creek Watershed. Over 95% of our wetlands in the Euclid Creek Watershed have been destroyed, and this is one of the last high-quality wetland preserves in this watershed.